Since we were kids, we've been taught to throw trash in the trash can, especially because we need to separate what will be recycled, mainly plastic. And what if I told you that more than 90% of all the plastic produced in the world has never been recycled? The truth is that plastic recycling was and still is one of the biggest frauds ever told in human history. While billions of people make an effort to separate their trash, the petrochemical companies have always known that almost nothing we put in the recycling bin would actually be recycled. Internal documents showed they knew since the 1970s that the plan was unfeasible, costly, and unsustainable. Even so, the world fell for one of the greatest deceptions of all time. Behind the beautiful side of recycling that we were taught, there was always a carefully planned strategy to protect a multi-billion-dollar empire. And, as uncomfortable as it may seem, this conspiracy is much darker than you imagine. Plastic has always been the product with 1,001 uses. Bottles, jars, trays, plastic films, packaging, and even car parts. But the truth is that the vast majority of them have never been recyclable and probably never will be. The only ones that have any viable recycling market are two: polyethylene terephthalate bottles and jugs made of high-density polyethylene. All the rest of the resin class 3 to 7 end up in the landfill or incinerated, even if they go through your recycling bin. Even these two recyclable types have issues. Plastic loses quality every time it is reprocessed. Unlike aluminum or glass, which can be reused infinitely, plastic can only go through 1 or 2 cycles before becoming waste again. In addition, many plastics contain toxic additives, stabilizers, flame retardants, and chemical pigments. When they are heated for recycling, they release dangerous substances that make them unsuitable for use with food. And in the end, recycling plastic is much more expensive than simply producing new plastic directly from petroleum. Virgin resin is cheap, fast, and subsidized to produce, but collecting, separating, washing, and reprocessing is costlier and yields lower quality. In other words, from day one, plastic recycling has been a dead-end gig both technically and economically. The industry has always known that. But if they knew it was unfeasible, why did they spend millions to convince us otherwise? 1950. The Society of the Plastics Industry in the United States gathered its executives and gave the order. The future of profit lies in disposables. If people use the same cup, the same packaging, or the same bag for years, sales stall and will go bankrupt. The solution then was simple: create a culture where plastic is meant to be used and thrown away. And it worked very well. In just a few years, single-use packaging took over the market. Bags, trays, containers, straws. But it didn't take long for the elephant in the room to become obvious. Trash piled up in streets, landfills, and rivers. Worries about how to handle a material that may take up to 1,000 years to decompose have spread through society. Then, in the 1970s, the population revolted. The environmental movement was growing and plastics became a symbol of the planet's destruction. The first proposals to ban plastic bags and packaging began to emerge. The industry realized the risk. If governments banned their products, billions in profits would evaporate.
I just want to say one word to you. Just one word. Yes, sir. Are you listening to me? Yes, I am. Plastics.
Winnie Pearson, Executive Director of the Plastic Recycling Foundation and longtime Marketing Director at DuPont, stated in 1988, "Without a doubt, legislation is the most important reason why we are pursuing recycling." So that's when the big marketing move was born. If people saw plastic as trash, the industry needed to turn it into something green. And what was the solution? Recycling. But first, the Society of the Plastics Industry, formed by the leading oil and plastics companies in the United States. They created associations, invested in front non-profit institutions to represent them, funded universities, and of course, hired advertising agencies. In 1988, the same Society of the Plastics Industry created the Resin Identification Code, interestingly very similar to the Universal Recycling Symbol created in the 1960s and 1970s. The similarity was not a coincidence. This new symbol started to be incorporated into all types of plastic. The detail is that this code didn't mean recyclable, it only identified the resin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7. But to the public, it looked like an environmental seal of approval. The result, millions of consumers believed that anything with that symbol could be recycled. While television campaigns showed happy families recycling, the reality was different. Most of it went straight to landfills and incinerators. But for the industry, that didn't matter much. What mattered was that people kept buying without guilt. This manipulation game worked so well that by 1994 the industry had already defeated hundreds of bills that sought to restrict plastics. So, recycling became the perfect excuse for the biggest plastic producers to protect their profits. Even though they knew it was a false solution for a long time, a letter from 1974 only recently discovered now in 2025 proved it. In April 1974, Charles Brailsford McCoy, then president of the powerful finance committee at DuPont, received a letter from the Great America Foundation proposing that DuPont take part in a recycling event that was just starting. The program was called Let's Make America Beautiful for our Great American Bicentennial. The vice president of the Great America Foundation wrote, "Our program wasn't made to clean up roadsides or public area roads. It was created to prevent beverage containers and other food items from ending up there." Although the iron, steel, and aluminum industries were participating in the event, Charles from DuPont declined the invitation. He replied as follows, "DuPont supplies coatings, liners, and raw materials to container manufacturers. When a container reaches the market, the components we supply have already been mixed with others, making recycling impossible. Therefore, we consider DuPont's participation in your program to be unfeasible." This evidence of fraud brought the plastics industry to court, despite the California State Attorney General is suing the world's largest plastic manufacturers to stop them from advertising their products as recyclable. They are devising a new trick. Recently, the pressure has returned. Oceans full of plastic, evidence of a past packed with lies, microplastics in our blood. Public outrage reappeared. In 2018, the world declared war on plastic straws. And guess what? Once again, the industry had to invent a solution. Now, the buzzword is advanced recycling, also known as chemical recycling. They present it as a major innovation, capable of turning any plastic into new raw material. In practice, it's basically luxury incineration. The process uses high heat or chemicals to break down plastics into oil or fuel. In other words, burning trash to turn it into energy. Studies show that between 86% and 99% of the material put into these systems becomes waste, smoke, or fuel, not new plastic. Besides, the cost isn't worth it. It's up to 16 times more expensive than producing virgin resin from petroleum. Even so, the advertising campaigns are already everywhere. Commercials showing futuristic machines, slogans like circular economy, and promises of a sustainable future. But don't be fooled. Advanced recycling isn't recycling. It's just the same scam, repackaged for the 21st century. Plastic recycling has always been an illusion. Since the 1950s, when companies sold disposables as convenience, through the 1980s, when they created symbols and campaigns to deceive consumers and politicians, up to today with the advanced recycling scam, it's all part of the same strategy to keep public opinion standardized, keep the public calm, keep governments inactive, and keep the flow of oil being turned into plastic. Meanwhile, over 90% of all plastic produced on the planet has already become waste in landfills, incinerators, or in the environment. The question that remains isn't just whether recycling is a fraud, it's whether we, as a society, will continue to accept being deceived and made fools of.